I know that after Raging Bull, before King of Comedy, you had considered giving up filmmaking. What inspired you to go on?
I really didn't consider giving it up. Everything I kind of knew into Raging Bull, and you have to understand that was a project that was driven by the actor originally. Back around 1974, he gave me the original book, and I really wasn't that interested in it. But between 74 and 78, a lot happened in my life, and then I found that that was the right form of expression for me, and we collaboration on that film with everybody, which Schrader and Martin was the other writer, but Schrader and myself, De Niro, and Michael Chapman, and Thelma and Irwin, Bob Chodoff, everybody. So what happened was that I poured it all in there, and I actually thought, I was thinking, I didn't understand that at the end of the late 70s, that filmmaking in Italy was not what it was. It was actually it was waning, and I was interested in the films they were making at Rai Television, and I was interested in the historical films, mainly from Rossellini, really. But I was interested. I really was. I was thinking I'd go to make films on the lives of the different saints, and I was trying to get an idea of the. I'm just interested in ancient history. I'm interested in the period where the ancient world is taken over by Christianity at that time, and so I was interested in making films about the 4th century CE. So that was the key thing. And they were meant to be very cheap and very, very simple films. Ultimately, by the time I finished Raging Bull, and by the time I went through other living experience, so to speak, Bob asked me, he had another thing that he liked, De Niro. He was, again, a character-driven piece, and I was kind of attracted to it. And that was also a project King of Comedy had given me in 1973, and I read it. I said, I don't understand it. It isn't for me. But what was happening was that I lived through it. And he was living through it before me, actually, as a film star, so to speak. And so I learned a great deal on King of Comedy because I decided to do it. He said, you know, let's go in there and do it, shoot on the streets of New York, and let's get it done. And I found that once I agreed to do it, I found myself resistant to it. And I think I was resistant to I wanted to know if I wanted to do anything anymore. In other words, was I going to generate anything? And so I had to learn in the picture to be a director, in a sense, a professional. What I learned from Jerry Lewis, who told me, you know, he's the consummate professional, he told me. 3 nights of shooting, and I had him waiting the first 3 nights. And the 3rd night, 2 nights of shooting, I thought I was going to get to him, and he waited till 6 in the morning. And next night, the same thing. And I never really worked with, you know, movie stars like that. That's a different thing. De Niro, myself, and Keitel were all sort of friends in a way. It was a different kind of thing. Daunting, Jerry, and I had great respect for him. But I was kind of afraid, I guess, to go and tell him, I don't think we're going to get to you tonight. Because he could be, you know. And so anyway, I also didn't know I was getting the crew together or anything else. But I think I've told the story before. But the thing about it is that the 3rd night, he's a very interesting man. 3rd night he said, could he come and see me? Because I couldn't go in his trailer. He was smoking. He was smoking at the time. But he came in and talked to me. He said, look, I'm the consummate professional. If you want me here at 7 at night to go 6 in the morning, you know, I'm doing it. You're paying for my time. He said, the only thing is now, for the first 2 nights, you didn't seem to be getting to me. All I'm asking is, if by 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the morning, you know, could you send me home? I said, sure. You know, that's what I learned what a pro is, you know, in a way. That doesn't mean the other people I work with. I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about De Niro or Chapman or any of these people that I work with as real pros who were there all the time in front of the lens and never any problem. I found I was somewhat resistant to it. I had to find my way through a project that was brought to me in a way. And once I got going, I was okay. But then after that, I realized I have to generate my own stuff, as much as possible, my own stuff.
I was hoping you could give detailed answers to some of the questions.
No, I'm trying. It just goes. I don't know what it is. It's obsessive, yeah.
Yes.
It's fine. My name's Greg Tracy. I'm an aspiring writer, director. I was curious to get your input on, when you first made Mean Streets and Taxi Driver, and then as your career has progressed, you talked a little bit about testing. And is it conscious to you what and how the audience will see the work as you're making it, or do you kind of trust that as you complete your vision, that will transcend into success commercially?
It's partial. I mean, there are certain things you know are going to get across to the audience. you know it. There are other things you really sometimes need feedback. You need feedback. I personally, I don't like the process of bringing it up in front of an audience, particularly today. You know it's going to be on the internet. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Everybody feels it. There's also something about previewing a picture where they're not used to, if you make a choice to go see a movie, you've read about it. I mean, people have said this, but it really, really hurts when you bring a film in and the picture is a longer film, it's epic length, so to speak.
Right.
It's a tougher picture. Maybe the people, as you canvass the people, let them know this director did this, he did this, and he did this. So they'll know what it is, they know who it is, they know kind of what to expect. But I still think that some of them would not have paid to see that particular film. I'm saying that. Right. So naturally, they may walk out, you may have this, and I found this in Goodfellas. I found that there were terrible previews, 3 previews which were grisly, amazing, and then, but I just at that point I said, the hell with it, that's the film. And what was happening is that we were also trimming the film, tightening it up, and also realizing Casino was terrible too, and Age of Innocence was very hard. But I also realized that certain, one shot of a man's head in a vice with the eye coming, that's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough, unless you're making another kind of film. Yeah. Unless you're into a whole other thing, and that's a whole other story.
Do you feel personal disappointment when something like, I'm thinking of Kundun. I personally, I personally enjoy maybe.
I wonder. I mean, I wish people would have seen Kundun, but Kundun is amazing and got made in America. Oh, really? Oh, that's good. That's great.
But I mean, when you bite the bullet, does it matter at the end of the day when you say that's my work and
that's it? That's
you walk away? Okay.
In Kundun, we previewed. We learned some things. We learned certain clarity issues, and we learned something very important, which we had tried not to do in the film, but because it was so complicated. The Dalai Lama, young Dalai Lama's relationship with Redding, his teacher. And so we had to go back and shoot a little piece of that. But finally, we knew what to shoot, though. Right. You see, once you know what to shoot, it's otherwise you can keep shooting, and then it won't work. And so what happened? We found that out. We went back for 2 more days shooting, and we put it in. And we know that film is only going to be for a certain audience. I don't think it's going to be a film that was for mass appeal. I think in Australia it was a giant hit, but I think interestingly enough, it was made in America. It was made with American financing, I believe. It opened the same day as Titanic. Both the spectrum. You have, so it's really interesting. I think it's interesting. But you're right. On a case like that, you have to know you're not going to make, even if you cut 40 minutes or 20 minutes even out of Kundun, it's still going to, the basis is still going to be there. It's non-Western narrative. It's a whole other, it has to do with an ecstasy of a kind of religious experience. And it's very different from the narrative that an audience, that we try to learn a lot from a preview. Really more narrative we try to learn.
I'd just like to say about previews once, just going to the movies in my neighborhood, and somebody came up to me and said, would you like to go to a preview? And I said, sure. And they said, it's a Miramax preview. Oh. And then they gave me a form, and it turned out the preview was not that same day, but I had to fill out a form and sign it, explaining that I was not anybody who was going to write about it or anything like that.
That's the first time I've heard of that, though. That's the first time I've heard of that, though, because I don't know what the hell's going to happen. I mean, you put these things up. I learned Cape Fear. I learned a lot about from the film about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Brendan Foley. I just wanted to ask you, I think Last Temptation of Christ is one of the great spiritual films ever made, and I was wondering how you felt about 15 years after the fact, after all the controversy that came about that film, particularly from the Catholic Church.
I feel all right about it. I mean, there was no doubt I was very passionate about making the film, and again, that was made with was made at Universal Pictures. Tom Pollock, Gar Chubinski with Cineplex Odeon. He had the theaters he would show the film in. Support from the studio, incredible support, amazing. I just feel, now it's shown on television. Anybody could tune it in. It's a pity that, I guess looking back, I just feel it's a pity that it's interesting as a test case as to what is freedom and what isn't. But it was interesting to me that as a test case, but actually it's a pity that such a smaller group, I think, was so vociferous in making it a scandal rather than a film that people might go and might feel a certain thing about it, because I have very specific ideas about why that picture was made and the presentation of all the people in the film, all the people who made the film about in that film, the way it was made. I'm not happy with the way it was made. I mean, I'm about my own work. I mean, I always look back and I say, that was probably the worst shoot that I ever had. That was probably the worst. And so I'm never really happy with that. But, you know, I mean, that was terrible. I mean, we just could hardly get anything on film sometimes. The weather.
Stop with the weather.
Yeah. Terrible.
Yes.
Hi, I'm a cinematographer, and I'm just curious to know, since you have such a great understanding of the history of cinema, why you think there have been such few female DPs throughout the history of time, really, in cinema.
Some of the DPs that I like, you mean?
No, I'm just wondering, as a female DP, why there haven't been more DPs that are females out in the history of time.
They're doing it now. There's so many female DPs now. I think, especially independent films. But again, what you're talking about is maybe from the older system, which I wasn't even a part of at that time. I mean, when I went out there in the early 70s, things were changing a lot, and there were only a few women directors, I think, and a number of others, a couple of others. I did a documentary on B films, American movies, and the woman director that I liked a lot, that I was exposed to a great deal in the early 50s, was Ida Lupino, who was an actress. Really strong movies and tough themes. Very interesting films. So I think, you know, you're dealing with a situation that was, at the time, difficult for females to direct, to produce pictures, too.
What about
cinematographers, though?
But they're shooting now. I know a number of them. A number of independent films are shooting now with female DPs. I wonder, I don't know, would it be, is it possible for female DPs to become part of a establishment, let's say, in Hollywood? I don't know, but I think it has to be, and it will be.
Yes.
Hi, what's your opinion of the New York Film Academy and the Sundance Institute as a way for a young person to get into the film business?
Well, anything you could do, any place you can get in, any party you can go to, anybody you can pester, again, is her again. Anybody, anything like that you can do is really, it's up to what you have to find the potential of it yourself, really. And it depends. If it isn't working for you, go to another place. And it's really the group of people. It's the group of people. Very often, you know, there might be, I don't know, these New York Academy, I really don't know what it is, but I would think if a film's being made or something and you guys aren't making one, and the people who don't get the film, go off and make your own. I mean, I think digital video is a big help, but digital video is a different thing, and it's a different aesthetic, and it has a different communication from the eye. It really, for the eye and the mind and the heart, there's something else going on there. I'm not quite sure what it is, but it's a different aesthetic.
Can you try to pick?
You know what I've seen a couple of films now in digital video, and I mean lower budget independent films. I don't mean projected feature film shot in 35, whatever, and then projected video. That's something else. And I mean that looks very good. Actually, I saw some of that. But the thing about it is there seems to be a kind of intimacy with the digital video. And it's interesting for actors because the camera is hardly, you don't even notice that it's almost like a rehearsal. And it could be less intrusive to the actor, and you get some remarkable things. But it's a different experience, a different emotional experience, and I think it has to do with the image, the lack of flickering, and there's something about the way the focus is especially in a quickly shot film, where the focus, you have almost no control of the focus, a little rougher. And I don't mean it just looks like home movies. There's something else going on there. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's a different emotional effect.
Yes.
Hi. Most of your films are bursting with energy from the first frame to the last. And I was really surprised when you did your best films of the 90s with Roger Ebert that a lot of the films on that list were much more ponderous, like The Thin Red Line and Eyes Wide Shut. And I was just a little curious as to why...
I would love to do one. I don't know. I find that, you know, Eyes Wide Shut, I mean, I just went with it. I saw it the opening night in L.A.
Me too.
I just went with it. It just, like, took me up in this, and...
I think what happened to it was terrible, too. It arrived with a certain set of expectations. There was all this publicity. It was supposed to be Tom and Nicole doing
right.
And everybody forgot about the film. And I think it'll be rediscovered.
I think so, too. But I think the challenge, for example, The Horse Thief and A Borrowed Life, I found that I'm trying to find new ways of telling story. I look at as many as possible films from around the world. And often... something will catch my eye, and very often it's a different visual experience. It's forcing me to see something a different way. It's forcing me to take my... And I think I learned that the first time I went in to see L'Avventura, Antonioni. I'd never seen that pacing before. And so I had to go see the film 2-3 times to get used to that. And over the years, I've been partial to having an experience in a theater like that. There's an extraordinary film called Joao Wu, too, this Chinese film, meaning, which is again, camera very static. I don't think I could do it. I think the closest I may have gotten to it may have been Kundun, but even that it's a different thing altogether. I don't know if I'm part of that cultural. I'm just not part of it, but I wish one day maybe.